Hello, everyone, and welcome to another season of the SurgeCast. How is everyone doing? We've got a couple of big topics to cover today, but boys, how are we doing today?
Doing good. Crazy to think we're already on season 5 of the podcast, and what a way to kick this thing off with some free agency talk.
I am well fed because Eric Tulsky has been cooking. Let me tell you that much.
It was definitely a very exciting 4th of July weekend for the Canes. Everyone was waiting, of course, as soon as July 1st hits. Everyone's like, what are they going to do? What are they going to do? What are they going to do? And they didn't really disappoint. I mean, we'll start off with the big name of the offseason for us is the Canes got, oh gosh, I always mess up his name a little bit. Ehlers.
Atta girl.
Yeah. Nikolaj Ehlers, yeah.
Listen, when you have your dad saying it wrong all weekend, you kind of get used to being like, you can say it both ways. But yeah, Zach, what's that 6-year contract look like?
Yeah, so it's a 6-year, $8.5 million per season. And yeah, it's a great deal, all things considered. You have them through, I think it's the 2030-31 season. So you got your top 6 winger that you're really looking at. And, you could put them first line, second line, however you want to do it. And you put them on the first power play unit. They've been talking about they want to get their guy for a while, and they finally get it. And when the guy's nickname is Fly, yeah, you're feeling pretty good about yourself because his percentiles of speed and shots, speed and everything else. Yeah, if they're waiting for the guy to be that dude for the Hurricanes, you got a really good one in a Danish winger called Nikolaj Ehlers.
Wait, you guys hear that? We'll play the clip later, but that's someone wanting to come to Raleigh, someone wanting to stay in Raleigh. Can you believe that? How about them apples? Yeah. I mean, again, Genso's down to the wire. Miko, we're past that. Like, that's a decision. And, like, in his press conference, he talked about wanting to be here, talking with Rod. Like, yes, like, this is the place where I want to be. And that's a guy that the Canes needed as well, talking about that playmaking. Didn't quite have that once Nate just left. Someone who's probably going to be a little bit more consistent compared to Nate. Just hopefully Ehlers is able to stay healthy. I know that's a big concern with him, but man, when he's on the ice for the Canes, he is going to be a weapon.
Yeah, Corey Levitt really touched on that with one of his posts saying offensively fans are going to see a lot of good stuff from Ehlers that are, like, resembles Martin Necas's game, except maybe not as much liability on defense, but you've got the speed, shiftiness, ability to make a great pass, snap a shot past a goalie. Again, it's just going to be staying healthy, which I think the Canes were okay taking a little bit of that risk because we have there's a backup on our wings. Like, there's guys itching to play on the wings. And what's also fun about this is Ehlers is the most money the Carolina Hurricanes have ever spent on a free agent by over $30 million. And that's if you exclude K'Andre Miller from this list. But that's kind of crazy. I mean, we said let Tulsky cook, and everyone's saying Dundon's cheap. Not anymore, folks. They're proving people wrong one deal at a time.
I'm so sick and tired of saying that he's cheap. That Canes pay into the cap every single year. So this narrative needs to die of them being cheap. It's called being smarter with your money. Because we saw a lot of really terrible contracts over free agency. LA Kings are looking at you. So yeah, this whole part of being cheap, that narrative should have died like at least 3 seasons ago. So I don't know where we keep going with this, but yeah, Ehlers, fantastic. If you looked at the over 10 minutes of highlights that the NHL put out after it was announced, yeah, you can see why this guy is so good, because really tough angles, goes coast to coast. Like, he is an absolute weapon when he's on the ice. And the fact that he can do it with fighting teammates or going one-on whatever, like, that's a guy you definitely need. And he's found a way to do what he can do. Like I said, only played in 69 games last year, but still, yes, Rich, go for it. I saw it in your face.
No, I was not going there. I was not
but
going there.
but still 63 points, back-to-back 60-point seasons, average over 15 minutes a game last year, 6 power play goals, 5 game winners. You know, he's a guy who's never hit 30 goals, but think about this, though. He's been over 20 plus 8 of the 10 seasons in the NHL, all with the Jets. So this guy knows what he's doing, and he puts up consistently 60-point seasons. So put him in the system with the Hurricanes where he's actually going to be utilized, because I think the knock on Winnipeg was that they just never utilized him perfectly. Now put him with the Hurricanes, and from what it sounds like, they might be a little bit more flexible, let him do his thing. Get ready for possibly some big seasons out of this guy. Are we talking 30 goals? Are we talking 70-plus points? I could definitely see that in the cards with the guy that they have, and especially if they put him in that top line with Sebastian Aho and hopefully Seth Jarvis. Watch out.
Well, to that point, Zach, pucks on net, that's what the Canes do best. And you have a guy that knows how to score and how to create. He is going to be so dangerous in this Canes system. When you look at total point scores from last year for the Canes, if he was on the Canes last year, he would have been third in points behind Sebastian Aho and Seth Jarvis. So that is a plug and play guy who's going to score points for your team. He is. What a great fit. What a great pickup. Yeah, that's an A to A+ contract for me.
A plug and play guy that, like you said earlier, wants to be here. So apparently as many as 11 teams made last minute bids for Ehlers. And he just said, no, it was going to be Carolina. He loves the fit, the commitment. We showed him from day one. And he couldn't be more excited to be here. I mean, again, even some of the guys that were leaving, I mean, we'll talk a little bit more about it, but some of the guys that left us this season were emotional leaving the Canes, and people want to be here. And to see big names like this, like, okay, so Rantanen, you didn't want to be here. That's fine. There are other guys that clearly do. So it's so great. The only thing is people were pointing out, I mean, we had some former Canes even pointed out, is the Canes we have some great players, but they're a little bit iffy on the size of our team currently. But I did want to point out, and I said this when I saw it, was we've gotten size in the past. And honestly, we've gotten a little bit more bite to our players that are smaller than some of the big guys we've gotten over time. That's why those guys haven't stuck around with us, because they didn't do the big guy job that we needed them to do. Meanwhile, Jarvis and Stank are hitting everything in sight, full bulldogs for us. So I'm not really concerned about size. And like, we got size where it matters. I mean, Slavin, Stahl, Freddie, and Net, like, you have size where it really matters. If you want a guy that's eventually going to come in, like, our fourth liners can do the job as well. So I'm not fully concerned about that. I'm more excited for the playmaking and getting those shots and just making it work in the Kane system.
Well, and you think about this too with Ehlers, like there was talks, like he left money on the table to come to Carolina, and that really speaks a lot, because like there was talks of Utah coming in, Detroit, even though it seems like they had no shot to get him, Toronto, Tampa. There was a lot of teams that are going after him. And like I said, he left money on the table. And even Elliot Freeman and Kyle Bukauskas of 32 Thoughts even talked about it too, for the fact that he also wanted some easier travel, because it's tough to travel out of Winnipeg from how far they have to go. And in the Eastern Conference is a little bit easier in terms of just travel wise. So I think that was a nice benefit too, for the fact that it worked out like that. Plus, I mean, we talk about, you mentioned Freddie. I love the quote that they asked him about playing with Freddie. And he was like, I love that dude. Like the fact that they got the Olympics coming up together, and, they were able to help Denmark qualify for the Olympics. Yeah. Like they say, it's, as the Hurricanes put it, more Canes, more Danes. That's how it really is. So it's like Finns get wins, Canes just get more Danes. So feel pretty good about that.
Yeah, so Ehlers had his press conference yesterday. We've got a little bit of a clip from it as well. It was a Zoom interview, so it's not the greatest audio, but he talks about his fit in Carolina and a little bit of why he wanted to come. So we'll go ahead and play that for you guys right now.
I think my speed, the stress game that Carolina plays in the sense when they don't have the puck, for example, trying to get the puck back as quick as possible. I think my speed, I'm able to do that. I think with my speed, I can create a lot of room for the other guys as well. And I believe that, I will fit in very nicely. And that's obviously something you look at as well when you try to make a decision. But, I talked to Rod and we had kind of the same vision about how things are going to go. And again, the talks that I've had with the people in the Canes organization is something that really excited me.
Again, do you hear that? That's someone that wants to be here.
I'm just excited for the guy to be over here talking about his speed and how he's going to, and you're just like, oh my gosh, it's Marty Natchez, maybe just a bit more consistent and more defensively sound. Like, that's what Kane said. Like, that was the one thing we were excited. Like, yes, we all love Marty Natchez, but also we are missing those keys to his game. So if you get that in a player of this caliber, that's fantastic. And, he can bond about Winnipeg with Jarvis, but he can bond with Freddie over, being the Danes of the Canes. But I also love that you're just talking about he left money on the table. That just brings me back to thinking about when Brent Burns waived his no move clause. Like, he literally, there are guys that are like, oh yeah, Carolina, oh, I'll take that any day over X, Y, and Z of what people would say would be a better deal for them. But they're like, but it's not a better fit for me. So I'm really excited. It's going to be very electric to see him. I'm excited to see him fit on the lines, see how he plays with Jarvis, Aho. But yeah, I know the front office, they're cooking, they swung, they're like, this is the guy we're going for, and they're all about it. But we also got to remember that not only did we get Ehlers, but a pretty big trade that we did was K'Andre Miller.
Yeah, this was a completely out of left field move. I don't think anyone really even saw this coming. And you look at where you saw the initial reports of, the Hurricanes are making a trade. Then it sounds like it could be Miller. Then it's like, okay, well, what's the return? And the fact it was a sign and trade, and going off the initial what the contract is, you're looking at an 8x7.5, which is still a really good deal, all things considering the fact that he's only 25. I know a lot of people were asking, why is he making more than Jacob Slavin? There's no way. And it's like, well, point being, Jacob Slavin took less money because he wanted to stay in Carolina, and he knows that you need to get other guys around you. Plus, he signed that contract last season, so where the cap is completely different. But not every guy wants to make oogles of money and make it, they want to go, make $10.5, $11 million. They want to build guys around them. Plus, Jacob Slavin's going to be there for his entire career. Money doesn't factor of how good a guy is. Some guys just want to make less money to build a team. Outside of that, you go and trade it's a conditional first, so it's whichever one is better of the Hurricanes or the Stars, but the Stars is top 10 protected, and they gave up their 2026 second as well. On top of that, they did have to trade Scott Morrow, and you saw from the video the Hurricanes put out last week that they threw Morrow in because they knew they had to give up something, and that's the thing. If you want to get good, you're going to have to trade good in that process. So a lot of people are saying it's an overpay. No, not really, because if you don't trade Morrow, you're going to have a bigger logjam of defensemen, and if they think that's the move to go down, since they didn't have a third, they thought that's the best one to go with. So it's just one of those things where, the Hurricanes, had to do what they needed to do to get Miller. And it sounded like that Morrow wasn't ready. And that was just a trade that worked out to where they can go get a defenseman who's bigger, blocks 110 shots, has 107 hits, has a really good offensive game, good reach. It's a trade that made sense, and a lot of people are thinking it's a little bit of an overpay or it's a little much of an ask to do that. But hey, man, guy makes swings, and you got a defenseman who can fit this system perfectly with a lot. He's younger and faster and better offensive upside than the guys who are leaving out the door that you just paid $500,000 like less in Orlov and all of that.
I think the big issue at times that I think people are talking about, primarily Rangers fans who are trying to comment on this, they're having such recency bias in the fact of Miller had a down year everyone on the Rangers had a down year last year. And yeah, when Miller wasn't paired with Adam Fox, his numbers suffered. But like I just said, everyone's numbers suffered last year with the Rangers. They completely underperformed. So how are you just going to blame one kid for the entire franchise not living up to expectations? That is not on him. And you like the beautiful part that Miller brought up too was like who he models his game after, and he said Jacob Slavin. So to have your almost role model under your wings to teach you those little things. But Scott Morrow, I forgot the exact quote, but in the playoffs he called Slavin like a knowledge book on how to play defense. So you have someone who's open to learn, someone who's already a big body, physical, willing to do whatever it takes for your team. His potential is sky high, and I think Rod and this team are going to unlock it.
I mean, if you even have a veteran of Brent Burns saying he learned from Slavin every single time they hit the ice. So, I mean, guys are just learning from Slavin left and right. And again, like you were saying, if you have a guy like Miller, he's just getting to his prime. He's already he's pretty good defensively, but he's also got a little bit of that offensive bite. He's there to throw the hits. But if you just add in Jacob Slavin being like, hey, this is how you could do this without getting a penalty, then you're kind of undefeatable. Like that's great. And it's the one thing I did love too about what Rod said is it reminded him a lot of Shea getting him. And, Ranger fans weren't super happy with Shea either, but Shea thrived here. So like, why would you take what another team says, oh, this player isn't going to do super well? I mean, we got Shea and he thrived here. Even most recently, we got Jankowski from the Preds, and the Preds are doing terrible. And you're like, all right, who's this random like fourth line guy? Like, what are we? And he comes in and he's scoring goals left and right. Just like different systems work better for different guys. So I'm excited to see him. I love that he says he models it after Slavin, because that's a guy that's looking to be so finely tuned defensively, but also, staying out of the box. Really, like that's the Canes game is defensive prowess. Like that's what we take. We're like, we're going to work you down so much with our defense that then we're going to turn around and score on you and just wear you down. So I'm excited for it. It's not something I saw coming either. I did point out, everyone was like, wow, they really must not like they must really not like Morrow to be sending him off. But if you look at it, we've got, so the two, we like let go, like Burns and Orlov out, but you still got Slavin, Chatfield,
Walker, Gossesbear.
So you've got
Nikishin.
You've got most of your defensive core there. And if you got your two, speaking of Nikishin, your two like newer, younger guys coming up, and Nikishin and Morrow, that's a lot to ask, having two newbies kind of on your line, like newbies. Like one is just coming into their NHL careers. And I'm sorry, but if you're going to bet on one guy that you got to, kind of watch grow into it, it's always going to be Nikishin. So Morrow was always going to have a little bit of a hard time getting into this lineup with what we have right now. And he's a really good player, but I don't think he should be waiting to be seventh defenseman for the Canes forever when he could get an opportunity with another team. So as much as I hate that he went to the Rangers of all places, I think it's going to be better for him long run, as he's actually going to get the ice time. He's going to get, like, it's kind of like Ghost. When we had Ghost before, Ghost wanted to be here, but there wasn't room for him in the lineup at the time. So he was like, I got to go somewhere else. I want to play more. I can do more. And then he came back here and he got slotted into a role more fitting for him rather than, less minutes lower down in the lineup. So I think it's going to be interesting. I'm excited. Again, not a move I don't think any of us saw coming, but a move that I think we're all really hopeful for with our defensive core.
I'm going to jump in real quick and defend Scott Morrow, because too many people hated on Scott. I was probably Scott's biggest fan. Like, that kid, there's going to be some goals he scores against us in the future I'm going to be so pissed off about, because I'm like, Scott, you're doing that in a Rangers jersey? Come on. But for him to get thrown into that role versus the now back-to-back Stanley Cup champions, that is so much to ask of a guy that young. So there's no reason to blame Scott for anything that happened in the ECF. He's going to be fine. He's going to do really well for the Rangers. Now, on Miller, to touch on his game a little bit more, this is a write-up from Shayna Goldman from The Athletic. And here we got Miller's a naturally gifted player. His skating can be one of the best strengths between his long stride and acceleration. He isn't the most prolific scorer, but he can make the first pass out of the zone on his own. Miller has the wheels to play with pace and transition to get the puck up the ice, which helped the Rangers generate more quality offense in his minutes. And then moving forward, even more importantly, for someone generally tasked with playing against top offensive competition, he has the tools to shut down opponents. I like that. I like that a lot.
Yeah, and going back to Morrow, yeah, no, that's just tough on a kid who's like not even like 22, 23 to go and hey, go do this job. Yeah, that's tough. So you can't really. I would never really put blame on him. It was just a tough situation to do that for rookies. But going back to Miller, yeah, you're adding a guy who's got the quickness, and there's a lot of mock-ups when you look at his overall skating is in some high percentiles. Even Nikolaj Ehlers, if you go to NHL Edge, which I would definitely recommend. Both of those guys, their percentiles are through the roof, and you're going to feel really good about that. Now, on top of that, learning from Jacob Slavin, the good thing too is when you look at the team defense of what the pairings could look like, your left side could literally look like Slavin, Miller, Nikishin. That's a great whole left side of the ice. And then you look at the right side, Walker, Chatfield, and Gostisbehere. Yeah. You put Miller with Chatfield, my goodness, you talk about a nasty, quick second group that can throw a lot of hits because both of those guys love to hit people and got speed. So that would look so perfect as a second pairing. We saw what Slavin and Walker can do together in the playoffs. They were both shut down. They were both very great. And then you throw a guy like Gostisbehere who can play on both sides, and you kind of ease Nikishin a little bit more as a third left side defenseman with a guy who's been there and done that on the third pair left side, and you got Ghost who can play the other side. That is a really good top six. I know we'll talk about our seventh defenseman later on in the show, but Slavin, Walker, Miller, Chatfield, Nikishin, Gostisbehere is your six. My absolute goodness, it's probably the best six that the Hurricanes have had. And we've said that we thought last year's was good. This upcoming season's six of defensemen, good night. Probably one of the best in the last and under the whole Brendan Moore era for the Hurricanes with the current six they're going to have.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just so excited. Defense has always been our lock-in. Like, if the defense is there, then everything else really does fall into place, especially recently. But talking about falling into place, so we got the defense figured out, but we got to make sure we got all of our offensive guys locked in. And we kind of touched on them a little bit earlier, but, we got Stank here for another 8 years of the stanky leg, and I'm so excited for it. Again, Tulsky said it best. From the moment he arrived in Raleigh, it was clear to us that Logan was a Hurricane. And we're thrilled that he agrees and is committed to be a big part of this organization long term. I'm sorry, but we had Aho for a little bit, Svetch, Jarvis, they all had a little bit to work into this organization. We all knew they were probably going to stay a long time, but they had a couple seasons. Stankoven came here at the trade deadline, played his heart out for those couple of games, and they said, all right, bet you're going to be here just as long as these guys. And I love that. I love that the guy that's committed right away. Again, he's our, I don't even want to say, kind of honorary second Jarvis, but not even, because he's got such a big personality of his own, but both of them play such familiar games. You could put him in with the Jordans both, no problem, because they both play that little bulldog snapping at your heels, throwing their hits on the boards, getting in front of the net, playing that nitty gritty, don't give up hockey. Really excited to see this guy for quite a long time now.
Yeah, deal's 8 years, $6 million, which is an absolute steal. I know the guys from What Chaos, from DJ and Pete, were just absolutely drilling how great of a contract that was for the Hurricanes. The fact you locked him up, by next offseason, that's going to look like an absolute steal, getting a guy like that for $6 million, which kicks in next year. So you're talking 9 seasons of Logan Stankoven. As of currently right now, he has the longest contract under the Carolina Hurricanes, because Slavin's and Miller's 8-year contracts kick in this summer. And we got Stank for another 9, including this year. So he's right now, he's going to be the longest tenured kid on this roster. by the time that contract's up, which is absolutely insane to think about if you're not counting all the previous seasons beforehand, the guys who've been here for a while. But that is an absolute insane thing to think about. And you look at, too, the way he plays, the Western Hockey League in the CHL, they know how to make two-way guys be very physical. And I think that's why the Hurricanes love having guys like Stankoven and Jarvis and all of that, because whatever they do in the Western League is absolutely insane of how they develop these dudes to be, no matter what size you are going to hit people, and you're going to play very physical style of hockey while scoring goals. So that's why it makes sense that these guys fit as Carolina Hurricanes. And yeah, Stankoven, like 19 regular season games, 15 in the playoffs. Now you lock him up for a very, very great deal. You can throw him on the third line. You can throw him on the second line. If you really want to go there, maybe put him in a different position. Hint, hint on that one. And then probably power play too. My goodness, like what a great addition to the power play. And you can actually use him as a third unit on the PK, because we got, Aho Jarvis, we got the Jordans. How about throw a little Mark Jankowski or whoever else you want to do in that third forward group along with Logan Stankoven? You got 3 forward units now on the PK that you can have. And that means more guys are going to stay fresh. You're not running the same groups out there. Another Swiss Army knife for Rod Burnham when you're talking about Logan Stankoven for another 9 seasons.
Well, fun fact, Logan Stankoven, both the highest paid and lowest paid NHLer in the 2034 season, because he's the only guy signed through 2034 as we speak. But with that said, I made a list for the SurgeCast going through Puckpedia of all the Canes signed through the 27-28 season. So that's for the next 3 seasons that you're going to have this list of guys around. Taylor Hall, 2028. Andrei Svechnikov, 2029. Sean Walker, 2029. Eric Robinson, 2029. Jesperi Kotkaniemi, 2030. William Carrier, 2030. Nick Ehlers, 2031. Sebastian Aho, 2032. Seth Jarvis, 2032. Jacob Slavin, 2033. Keandre Miller, 2033. Logan Stankoven, 2034. That is a great core of guys that you're having around for a long time. Not to mention both the Jordans for the next 2 seasons. I want Shauno and Chatty for the next 2 seasons on defense
Ghost
as well, at least. Or Ghost, yeah. So those 2, Chatty and Ghost, for at least 2 more seasons.
Yeah, Walker's got another 4.
Yeah,
Walker's
that's
got
right.
4
He's signed a longer one. But man, like that's a great group. Who knows about 2C? But like you have your guys locked in, and guys that just made it to the ECF last year, and now you're going to be able to have them continue to grow, bond, become better under Rod Brittamore. Come on.
Yes, we gotta talk about our friend the Kane Sat brand, of course, came along, and Tulsky, he's cooking. All right. But he's got some great stuff so far, and everyone, of course, is like, just get a 2C and you're really gonna thrive. Okay. There aren't a lot of 2C options. Centers are okay. 2 positions that are very, very far and few between right now are centers and goalies, which is funny because that's what the Canes have always been a little bit struggling with. And I'm not just, for example, with the goalies, guys, like 5 teams asked Marc-Andre Fleury to unretire because they needed him. And I don't know who those 5 teams are. I feel like one has to be the Oilers, but that's just my own thought. But like, so when you talk about stuff like that, you're like, wow, the Canes really need this. It's a lot harder to get than you think. But centers is another thing. If you look at the centers, especially ones that you really want, they're like, the young guys are locked in and like core pieces of their teams right now. Like they are not leaving, or they just signed a big long contract and you're like, great, that's not going to be our guy. Or you've got a lot of older guys where you're like, do you want to pay him so much money and then later someone else comes available? You don't know. So in terms of centers, if the Canes decide, again, we have excess on the wings, give any of the guys some shot at center. And we're talking about Logan Stankoven. Of course, Kane Satbrand gave some stats for us, of course. His career faceoff stats, his NHL career is 46.7%. In the WHL, it was for the past like 2023, 22, and 21. It was 58.3, 55.8, and 57.9. That's not a terrible statistic. And if you have a coach like Rod Brindamore, who is the king of the faceoff dot, if you give a guy a shot and he's already got a pretty high percentage, then I mean, you could see if he can get up to that 50% mark. I mean, you've got Brindamore, you've got Stahl, you've even got KK as great like guys to learn from on how to really win at the dot more. But I'm just excited. I think Stankoven is going to be like Jarvis, where you could literally put him anywhere and he's going to thrive. So very excited about that. We do have a couple of other guys that we'll talk about later, but those were our big three. Now to do a fun little breakup in the pod, our paid intern had I think a snake draft of sorts.
Yes, it is officially snake draft season on the SurgeCast, with it being the 4th of July weekend. We're going to talk about which current Carolina Hurricanes you would invite to the cookout. So, snake draft order through the random generator, believe it or not, ended up being me, Kat, Zach in that order. We'll go 4 rounds of the snake draft. So, starting off, the clearest 1-1 pick in snake draft history, Seth Jarvis. Welcome to my cookout. Being able to play the drinking games, the vibes will be through the roof. An absolute king when it comes to getting after it responsibly, I am sure. Seth Jarvis, my 1-1 pick. Welcome to the Weber cookout.
Weber with 1B. Like the grill. I would say if you're going to take Jarvis and it's going to be a cookout and you want it to be a really fun time, I got to go with one Jordan Martinook. King of the party. Got to go with him. If it's not Jarvis, it's going to be Martinook. If your cookout's anywhere near mine, I know they're going to be chirping each other from across the lawn. But that's welcome to, I guess, my cookout, Jordan Martinook.
I was hoping he'd somehow get back to me.
No.
That was foolish on my part.
Nope.
Pretty clear 1-2. Zach, good luck.
I mean, there's a lot of good guys you can get on this list. I mean, in terms of for cookouts and stuff like that. But I'm actually, I'm going to go for it. I'm going for a guy who might be one of the most underrated guys, but I think he can work the grill for being a family man. And you know what? Let's go with one Mr. Jacob Slavin, man in the grill, coming in hot with the clutch cooks. And you never know, man. I mean, gotta go with Slavo, man. You
better make sure that cookout's after church.
Oh, obviously. I mean, nothing good like a good after church cookout, because why not? So I mean, and he's a guy that can get a lot of people around him and just have a good time. It might not be rambunctious, but hey, you can never have a nice a chill cookout's always fun too with the family and stuff like that. So a lot of pool games, a lot of good food. Why not? And I mean, he might even get you score you some 2 roosters, because why not get some ice cream there as well? So
true.
Jacob Slavin. And then for my second pick, because I love the fact that I got this one, another guy who's got some good humor, very dry, but someone who can really surprise a lot of people, Shane Gostisbehere. Let's go back-to-back defense and go get some ghosty. Why not?
All right.
Yeah, Slavo Ghost going 1-2.
Zach's got some locker room stories, I'm sure, just hearing Ghost from afar, where he's like, okay, that guy, he's invited to the cookout.
Oh, 100%. Oh, yeah. Very underrated sense of humor. If you've seen the videos that the Hurricanes have put out, this guy is got some dry, quick one-liners. Got some good stuff there from Shane. Back to you, Kat.
Back to me? Oh.
Yes.
Yeah, snake draft. Yeah, back to you.
Sorry, I'm not in that mindset, but I'm transitioning. All right. Well, if I've got one Jordan Martinook and I don't have Jarvis, but if I'm going to keep the vibes high, I've got to go with Andrei Svechnikov, because him and Martinook together is going to be hilarious.
A lot of Mr. Svechnikov is going to be going down at that grill.
It's going to be a very loud cookout. It's going to be probably pretty competitive, and they're going to bring everyone around, because I mean, those guys just attract a crowd no matter where they are.
Okay.
Rich, this is the easiest layup you should ever have with your second pick. And if you don't, my goodness.
Yeah.
This is the
I think
easiest
everyone
layup.
knows.
I think I know who he should pick. I think I know who he wants to pick.
Well, luckily
he's
it's
got 2 picks. He's got
I've
2
got
picks.
I've got 2. Hopefully he gets back to me for my final picks. So I won't pick him now, but this one, round 2, pick 6. I'm going KK. Best friends together.
Yeah.
Again,
That's what
this is a cookout for adults only. We are responsibly getting after it. But ironically, to circle back though, talk about dad vibes, someone who can man the grill, someone who Seth Jarvis literally called one of his dads. I'm going Jordan Stahl. Maybe a little bit of surprise, but
That's
I think
nice.
the man's won a Stanley Cup. He knows how to party as well. Also have a good time. I think Jordo would be a surprisingly good time at the cookout.
No, that's fair. That's a good one. So you got the best friends forever and one of the dads. Okay.
One of the dads.
Exactly.
All right, Kat. So you're third.
I just get no doubles. This sucks. Okay.
That's the worst part about being number 2.
I didn't pick it. All right. Well, if we're gonna keep the friendship alive, I think I've got to go. It's kind of based on who's already coming to the cookout at this point, but Pyotr Kochetkov has got to come to mind at this point. Pyotr's he's not gonna be himself unless he's with Svech. So bring him on along, our little Russian baby goaltender. It's gonna be chaotic. We're gonna teach him new words. It's gonna be fun. All right, Zach.
Oh, I can go so many directions with this, but I'm going to have to. Yeah, you know what? We're going to keep that defensive room going with my next pick. We are going Jalen Chatfield, bringing him in with Ghost and Slavo. Hey, you got to keep the vibes high. You know, Jalen's going to get after it too, but he's going to have a lot of fun with it. So we're going to have just a very nice, chill family cookout. Why not? And the fact that that locker room, that defensive core is so locked in together, it just makes sense to keep it with Chatty, because why not? The relationship he has with Slavo, of course, with Ghost, you're riding high there. And pick 4. There's so many guys I can go here with this one.
How full are we doing this? Like, how full of a cookout are we doing?
Oh, it's just 4.
Well, this is it, 4 rounds. So we're on the last round now.
Okay.
Yeah. So my last pick, like I said, I could have gone with both of the Danes here, 3 and 4, if I really wanted to keep the friendship alive. I mean, there's so many other guys we can go with here, but you know what? We're already rocking families. We're already rocking, having a good time with these guys. Give me Taylor Hall for my last pick. So we got it. We got a vibe, and we got a. This is how we're doing it here at the cookout, with just a lot of family and just hanging out, and just guys who's got some good sense of humor and can have a lot of fun with it, and a lot of great stories. So a lot of veteran presence rocking this cookout.
Former MVP probably has quite the stories to tell.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, like I said, you got a lot of veteran presence in this cookout and a lot of family atmosphere here. Yeah, there's gonna be a lot of good fun. Don't sleep on a lot of these guys knowing how to have fun at the cookout. There's gonna be a lot of fun games. We're not gonna get after it like some other ones are, but there's be some good times.
They've been there, done that, know how to run the grill. Everything runs smoothly at Zach's cookout.
Oh, 100%. Straight up, no chaos. We're rising up and having a good time.
Kids are present. Kids are present at his cookout. I don't know whether to stay in Russia or not.
I was wondering that.
I could. There's honestly 2 more guys I could grab, and it would just be Martinuk and the Russians. Which I think he'd be fine with.
The Martinuk and the Russians.
Yeah, just give me all the Russians with a 4th of July cookout. It'd be great.
Makes sense.
But I think he's a young guy. He's got some. He's maybe not as much of a wild child as Jarvis, but I feel like if you're with Martinook and Svetch, they'll pull it out of you. And don't worry, Richie, I'm not taking yours. I'm gonna take Mr. Logan Stankoven as my last one because I think let's go. He's going to be around this team for quite a while. Again, he's got the youth. He definitely probably can party with these guys. If not, they're going to yell at him till he does. So let's go ahead and welcome Logan Stankoven to my cookout. I wonder who's going to be the last pick for you. He's so giddy about it.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because when we met him, we asked, hey, do the boys invite you out anytime they go out? And he said, no, in like the most sheepest way possible. I was like, this is terrible. So congratulations, Jackson Blake. You are invited to the cookout. You are invited out. JB, talk about underrated guys who could probably responsibly have a good time. JB can, for sure. Welcome to the cookout, Jackson Blake. Now we got to talk about honorable mentions. I feel like a lot of people are going to talk about Fishy not being invited to one of our cookouts, which we probably could have if we had 5 rounds. He would have been my next pick.
Yeah.
But
I was kind of surprised you didn't go there with Fish, especially the fact you got KK and Jarvis together. That would have been like, okay, that's a great 2-3 combo right there for your picks.
It would have been like Aho's wedding.
The thing with Aho is that he could go between one of our two more rambunctious, probably more of Richie's, but our two rambunctious, or he could, he's family man now, or he could go to Zach. So he could really be the floater between the 3 and get along with everyone. So
he's invited to all of them.
Yeah.
I would say if we're going to honorable mentions, I would say you have to bring, if we're going like a lot of combined guys, I think you would have to bring the 2 Danes in Ehlers and Freddie. I know they're going to be, Freddie's a little bit more quiet, but I don't know. If you get Nick around, he might be a little bit more talkative. I think with the family-like atmosphere too, I think that would have been fun to get the 2 Danes together because why not? But those guys would have been great together. I mean, you could possibly talk like Eric Robinson maybe as another option as well. Sean Walker's got a good sense of humor too. So I mean, Walker would have been a good one, but. Yeah, there's a few honorable mentions on this team. Coaches would have been impossible to bring to these cookouts.
But let's be real. This cookout, they would have found a way. It would have been a combined cookout eventually. They would have all been together, joking around, going crazy. They would have, had to babysit Jarvis and the kids at Zach's. So all in all,
KK too. Don't forget back. They'll probably be watching for KK as well.
Some guys that didn't make that list, but we still have to talk about are the rest of the free agent moves. Some of the guys that we brought back and re-signed, some of the guys that we picked up on shorter 1-year deals. Kat, who are we starting with from this list of guys that we have coming to the Canes that aren't as high profile as your Ehlers, Millers, or Stankovens?
Yeah. So we'll be starting with Mr. Eric Robinson. Again, I said it was going to be between him and Rozovic was going to be a 50-50 on who's coming back. Rozovic has not, he's still out and about, ready to be signed by a team, but Mr. Eric Robinson is with us for another 4 years. Yeah.
Great, $1.7 million per season. Can't go wrong with that. Had career across the board. He wanted stability, got the stability, and the Canes know what they're going to get out of this guy. Someone who can definitely play to that bottom 6, can definitely throw him into situations. Plus, he, like I said, fits the system of hitting, can score, got the insane speed, very underrated. Even Seth Jarvis mentioned it last year at his contract extension, signing that. The guy with some sneaky speed was Robinson. He has that. And honestly, not bad when you go from where he was getting paid. I think it was like less than $900,000 last year and goes and gets that nice bump to 1.7. 4 years, great overall AAV, great term. It's going to look stupid cheap by next offseason where you're looking at $104 million plus at 1.7. Cannot be upset about that move. Great to have E-Rob back for another 4 years in Carolina and finally getting a stable extension for more than just a year.
Yeah, I know we talked about it in our last episode of we thought he played himself into a $2.5-3 million contract maybe, but again, wanting to stay in Carolina. And like you said, Zach, the size, the speed, like talk about a great bottom sixer for us. Guy does it all. You found the scoring, so who knows if he finds the right partner. Robbie and maybe Jenk get it going down there on one of those bottom lines. Like he has sneaky potential. Just that does things the right way. Like we talked about it. Like we'd be happy to see him stay in for 1.7 for 4 years. Love that deal.
It might be even interesting to look at, like, if Rod does Mr. Blindamore, of course, then the lines get all wonky. And at some point, Robinson had really good chemistry with Natchez. So at some point, if he has chemistry with Ehlers, would be interesting to see as well. Because that's again, we said they're a similar type player. Of course, you're going to be thinking he's going to play top line with Jarvis and Aho. But if there is a game where you just got to get something else clicking, that could be something interesting because we've seen Robinson go up and down the line. But yeah, Tulsky said it's no surprise to us that Eric had his best professional season last year with Carolina. His size and speed make him excellent fit for the way we want to play. And so we're excited for him to remain a Hurricane. So I think it's a good deal. Again, he probably could have got a little bit more elsewhere maybe, but maybe for less of a term. So it's kind of nice. He's like, okay, I'd rather be in Carolina for longer and be settled here than and like maybe not make just as much, but it's comfortable. He's around people he knows, a place he loves to be. So really excited about that. But not just Robinson. So we've also got the guy with the best name to announce. Juha Jaska signed a 2-year extension. Not at all surprised, honestly, because that is your grinder. That is a guy that is after Rod's own heart that can go up and down between the AHL and the NHL, and he can just go in and play hard, well-fought hockey, and maybe he'll find the goal, but what he's going to do is give you 100% effort no matter what. And at times when guys have injuries or we need another person up there, that's what Rod is going to call on because he's going to be very dependable. So he's got a 2-year contract extension for how much, Jack?
$775,000 for each year. First year is a 2-way though, so there's a part of an AHL contract with some guarantee on that as well. But then year 2 is a 1-way, $775,000. Honestly, great deal. Like I said, you get a guy who, in his first year in North America, played really well for the Wolves, did well for the Hurricanes in the United States for a couple of years. Like I said, gets the 2-way this upcoming season, and then year 2, it's a 1-way. Great AAV. Can't be upset about that for a guy who could potentially be one of 2 possible first call-ups in case of injuries or stuff like that. So, yeah, good to see some Juha Jaska back with the Canes for a couple of years.
We'll touch on it when we add another forward here shortly, but I love the depth that the Canes are building at forward because if a guy or two goes down, like, you know the type of guys that you're bringing up, and they are the force of one Rod Brindamore, like plug and play, do things the right way, play hard, be in your grill. Yeah, scoring might not be there, but like it'll come around eventually with the pucks on net. Yeah, Juha, like when he got called up, he was very surprising because everyone's like, oh, who is this kid? You see the way he played, and it's like, yep, that's a Cane.
The next guy, which is going to be real exciting for anyone that's been a Canes fan for quite a while, because he is the son of a former Hurricanes captain in Keith. I don't say his last name, Zach. I don't want to butcher it.
Primo.
Thank you. Listen, we have Primo and Primo. I've gone back and forth just with our sponsor alone. I never want to mess up that name. But we've got Caden from the Montreal Canadiens, and he's only 25, and we've got him for how long now?
The contract is a 1-year, $775,000, of course, with guarantees and all that other stuff in AHL side of contracts. But yes, 1 year left, catches left, 25 years old. Actually came off probably his best ever AHL year last year, sub 2 goals against, a high 9, I think it was like a 9.93 something save percentage. A guy who can play in the NHL as well. He's basically your third goalie for your break class in case of emergency. He's a guy who can play on both, in the AHL and in the NHL. And they need depth because Dustin Tokarski's gone and Spencer Martin has gone over to CSKA Moskva of the KHL. So they had to get depth and train for Cade and Primo for just a 2026 7th. Nice, tidy work for goalie depth for the Hurricanes.
Chicago, you're welcome. Based on those numbers that he had down in the AHL, he's going to do great things. You just know that it's the case with Freddie and Piotr. One of them's going to go down for a little bit throughout the season. So it's good to have a guy like this who's seen a lot of pucks fly his way down in the AHL, even in the NHL. And yeah, the numbers aren't necessarily the best in the NHL, but a guy when you need to call up when things are tight, do you never steal a couple games for us? Caden seems definitely capable of making that happen for the Canes.
Also remember too, it's Montreal when Montreal was so take those numbers with a grain of salt.
And do note that he did win the 2025 Harry Holmes Memorial Award for the AHL Best Goaltending Duo alongside his teammate Connor Hughes. So, I mean, like I said earlier, as a reminder, goalies, they're literally asking goalies to unretire across the league to come back to teams. So we're going to need help in any way, shape, and form. And I think this is a great option as a third, especially if you've got your other guys leaving. So really excited to see that. And with the tie to the Canes, is a really fun thing for fans as well. And I'm sure it's fun for Caden because, hey, it was his dad's old team. If we're going to talk about goalies, we also, oh my gosh, I'm not even going to try to say his name. Zach. We signed him to a 1-year contract, another goalie by the name of
Amir Miftakov. I talked about this guy back in April because it was a rumored move that was going to happen. Came to fruition. rumored at the time. Came to fruition. Great move. $775,000 as well. This is a 2-way. Got some AHL money. Guarantees, stuff like that. And he's also a UFA group of 6, which is when a contract ends with an RFA status, that player becomes a group 6 UFA if several conditions are met. Not going to throw those conditions, but that's what he's looking like next offseason. Also 25, also catches left, came out of I think it's AK Bears out of the KHL. Another great goalie that they can look at. Of course, as they always say, take KHL goalie numbers with a grain of salt. But hey, another Russian, same thing like Primo. Need to get some goalie depth. There's the guy to get it. So most likely Ruslan Kaisev and Nikita Kwap, who they've also are going to have for next season, going to start next year in the ECHL Greensboro Gargoyles.
Who do you think we get more of, Russians, Finns, or Danes now? I think Russians are still our cup of tea at the moment. It used to be. We're on our way with the Finns.
Vodka. Or a cup of vodka at this point, more than anything else. I wouldn't even say tea, but yeah, we definitely love our Russians. So,
Kat, were you considering taking him for the cookout?
Not on the Hurricanes roster, though.
No.
We said main roster, not AHL.
He's Svetch's +1.
But honestly, great move. There's your 2 goalies for Chicago. Both 25, both left catching, both making the same amount of money. In terms of overall, AHL numbers are different, but good goalie depth. Nothing wrong with it.
Yeah, and if we're going to keep talking about our depth, we got one brand new face and another familiar, but we sign Mike Riley to a 1-year contract, and he's a defenseman from the Islanders. A veteran. I'm going to compare him to who am I thinking of? Smith, not Ty Smith. No, Brendan Smith. I'm comparing him to Brendan Smith because he's kind of a he's there. He's all right. He can play defenseman, but it's like he's right there at the cusp where he's like, you're not overly valuable, except you're someone who can fill in and play if someone goes down. So I'm gonna. Yes, do you have a thought?
I will say he did miss games last year because of a heart condition procedure they had to take care of. So that's why he only played a certain number of games last year, as a heads up on that. So,
okay,
not healthy scratch, medical stuff.
Okay. I don't know. I feel like from what I saw, he's just like a guy that hasn't really gotten anyone to really have confidence in him to play more, not just besides the health stuff. So I'm interested, but I am going to say he's going to be down there kind of, again, like a Brendan Smith or like just that extra, maybe a little bit of a heavy hitter, does a little bit extra, but he, with what the defense we talked about earlier, I'm not expecting him to come in a lot unless there is an injury.
Yeah, seventh defenseman could play left defense and right defense, $1.1 million. Honestly, this one snuck through a lot of the announcements on July 1st because not even the big name guys that cover the league, Friedman and Chris Johnston and all of them, no one even mentioned that deal with Riley. That one just kind of flew under the radar. But yeah, $1.1 million, your seventh defenseman can play both sides of the ice. They wanted someone who has got some NHL experience. He has that with a slew of different teams. So, yeah, Mike Riley's your seventh defenseman now.
That's a big thing Rod wanted, your defensive depth. And compared to a Scott Morrow, primarily in the AHL coming up, you've got that guy with that NHL experience, has been around the block, good plug-and-play guy wherever you need him on your blue line.
Yeah, because you're not relying on like a Ty Smith or a Riley Stillman or like you said, Scott Moore. There's no young guys or guys who've got very limited NHL time. You got a guy who has a plethora of NHL time. So that made sense why they went and got him. Also realized that's why you don't see Orlov or Burns back with Carolina. So it makes sense to go get Riley. Not a bad move, all things considered.
Yep. And then with our final and familiar face coming back, we've got Tyson Jost to a 1-year contract. And I honestly think a lot of Canes fans were excited about this. He kind of endeared everyone to him just because every time he was on the ice, he put in so much effort. His heart was left on the ice, but also that fight with the Washington Capitals, him and Jankowski really standing up. They go after the fourth liners and they said, no, we're not putting up with this. We don't even know what this rivalry is and we're not dealing with it. So I think he endeared a lot of people to him then. But of course, Tulsky said it best, was Tyson was able to contribute to our organization in a number of different ways last year, and we're happy to keep him here. He's extremely well-liked and hardworking and capable of playing a number of different roles in the lineup. So I am also excited. I thought he might come back for that depth play, and I'm also excited that he will be back in the lineup from time to time.
Yep, another two-way deal, $775,000, could play left wing and center. Saw him play center last year, 10 for the Hurricanes. I would not be surprised if he is going to be probably your 14th forward with whoever they're going to take out with Jankowski, Carrier, Robinson. Probably not Robinson, but you get the point. We're probably going to run a full 23-man roster next year with a couple forwards and one extra defenseman. So if that's the case, I would expect you probably will see Tyson Jost as a healthy scratch a lot of nights, at least, just in case they need someone to be up there. If not, him and Yaska will probably be one of the first couple of call-ups out of Chicago. So honestly, great move. Obviously, there's more guaranteed money for him as well. I think his is like $600,000 guaranteed AHL money, stuff like that. But 1 year, $775,000, another nice, tidy depth move piece by Eric Tulsky and the Hurricanes.
Yeah, either way, if one of your forwards goes down, you're calling up Jost or you're calling Yaska, you're getting great skater, unbelievable worker, throw the body around. Like, again, Rod's like, yep, you're in. Someone you don't have to worry about.
Yeah.
Yeah. I can't say enough. I'm glad he's back for another year. But with that, I do want to note very quickly to our Canes that are gone but not forgotten. We have, of course, we talked a lot about our defense, so we got to say Dmitry Orlov, did not re-sign with the Canes, so he instead signed a 2-year contract with the San Jose Sharks on July 3rd. Funny enough, he went to the Sharks, but Brent Burns did not. Brent Burns, there was rumors that maybe he would come back in some capacity, but with the move of K'Andre Miller and some of the extra, you're like, there's not really a place for him anymore. Actually, he went to former co-host of the pod and friend of the pod, Bailey, her team in the Colorado Avalanche on a 1-year contract on July 2nd. So wish both of them the best of our two defensive. They literally gave their hearts for quite a bit, but it was time to move on to a little bit of a younger core. I will be really interested to see it's only a 1 year, so I'm interested to see how long Burns plays, and I'm really interested to see if he comes back to Carolina in any capacity, because I would recommend going to see. Bailey did have a little bit of a interview with him, and Burns talking about Carolina, you can tell it was very heartfelt, very, I'm leaving a home that I thought I would be in for maybe forever. So we will miss him. He was a heart and soul of this team. Was he top line material anymore? Probably not. Was that Iron Man streak should have continued as long as it? Maybe not. But the mentorship and what he gave to this team while he was here, and just his great words about our coaching staff and team, really showed that we endeared ourselves to him just as he endeared himself to us. We will miss that backpack of things we don't know, but could have literally a whole car in it if need be. But we also got to talk about our remaining. Spencer Martin, of course, you said signed a 2-year deal with SKA St. Petersburg in the KHL on July 2nd. And Scott Morrow, of course, traded to the New York Rangers on July 1st. And Riley Stillman, which is why you got Mike Riley Stillman is no longer able to come up and help, as he is signed a 2-year, 2-way contract with the Edmonton Oilers on July 1st. And then there's a couple of other guys from our unrestricted free agents and restricted free agents list that you can go and look at. We've issued some qualifying offers to some guys. Some other guys did not, and now they're open to the market. But I recommend going to look at the Hurricanes offseason playoff tracker if you're really interested to see what goes on from there. So that was the Canes offseason move so far. You never know what Tulsky is cooking, so we'll just keep an eye on that, let you guys know whatever else unfolds. But for now, we're going to go to a quick word from our wonderful sponsors that keep us functioning. And yeah, we'll be right back, guys.
All right, Zach, we're back. Shout out to our sponsors. It's just you and I for this segment. We're talking about the NHL draft that took place not too long ago. For most Canes
are you sure? Are you sure it's done? Because it felt forever to me.
Well, it did take forever just for Tulsky, York, and Co. to trade the Canes' first-round pick to the Chicago Blackhawks for a second straight year. But we finally got the Canes' first pick, as well as 6 more on Saturday. Now, we were able to get a couple goalies, centers, defensemen, you name it. Where'd the Canes go the most? Good old Russia. Zach, of these picks, was there any that stood out to you as like, oh my God, I can't believe this guy fell to the Canes? And what were your overall thoughts on the Canes draft class?
I think Rybkin was probably one of the biggest ones that a lot of people were kind of surprised, because there's a lot of talk about him being like a first rounder in the back end of that, and the fact that he dropped to where he did, I think, was an absolute fantastic move for the Hurricanes. Goaltending wise, I was a little bit surprised with the guy they went with. I know, there's a lot of other goalies they could have went in the second round, but overall not bad in that aspect. I wouldn't even say Primtov that they got in the third from Russia as well, the defenseman, another great move. Or I think it was, he was a great one to get, tall defenseman, someone that was really high, highly thought of. Another great move on that aspect of things. You go get a Swedish winger, which I am currently blanking on his name right now, but I mean, Nordland. Great pickup, good shifty, like I said, Swedish winger. out of the junior 20 league. And then the guy I was really excited about who I thought was going to go in the third or fourth round, the fact that he waited until 221, which goes to show that there was a theme to this draft, was big, big, and big, because everyone's trying to copycat the Florida Panthers. So a lot of guys who you thought were going to go like second, third, fourth rounds, a lot of those guys got backloaded all the way to the back end of the draft. And the fact that they got Philip Ekberg out of the Ottawa 67s, which I'm now 1 for 17 of my draft selection picks, because I said the Hurricanes need to get this guy, and they did. Very good. I mean, he led in goals and points in the World Juniors for the U20s this past summer. So a fantastic pick for the Hurricanes at 221. Overall, Hurricanes quality and quantity. They got 7 picks, but all really good guys. I wouldn't say there's a lot of reach picks. I think the only one was probably Charlie Serrato out of Penn State. I'm curious to see how he does. I know he was one of the finalists for the freshman Big Ten guys of the year. I'm really curious to see what he can do going into his sophomore year at Penn State. But another good guy to kind of look out for as well. But overall, I think the Hurricanes did a really, really good job. I would definitely probably give them about a B+. And I'm not someone who grades drafts, because who knows what that looks like in 3 or 4 or 5 years, but I would say right now B+, just for the fact of what they've gotten. But I think they did a very good job in terms of the draft overall for the Canes, what they got. Going from 0 seconds to 3 seconds and getting guys who are higher talent in draft projections. Not bad at all for Darren York and the amateur scouts to do what they can do.
I think that's the best part of the situation the Hurricanes find themselves in. If you can take those swings on guys who are 3 to 5 year projects, because like we talked about earlier in the show, the Canes are set for quite a while in some of those positions. So you don't need anyone to come up and play this year, play next year. Let them stay overseas, let them develop in college, you name it. The Canes have time to kill when it comes to prospects. And again, Rybkin, I only heard outstanding things about him. Canes prospects went live. They're like, he's still available, and we took him. Mike Bartner covering the draft. They're like, you got to be kidding me. Like, this is such a Canes pick of like, we don't care, like draft and stash type of guys. Same thing with Lumatov. Like, some called him maybe another Nikishin, who knows, like down the line. Like, you're not going to hear about these guys for a couple more years if you're really not following their development. But overall, that's the benefit of why you trade that first round pick for those extra seconds to be able to just take swings on guys, because you never know. I feel like with the NHL draft specifically, the more swings you take, the more possibilities to get hits. And based on the projections of some of these guys, these could be absolute steals. And you name it, 4 to 6 years from now, we'll be looking back like, wow, how did this guy fall to said round? I won't do it about anything that's coming out of prospects camp. That's a little egregious to say those things, less than a week after the draft, but over time, this could really age into a solid draft for the Canes.
Oh, no, 100%. With Rybkin, I mean, he did start over in Russia last year, came over to the United States Hockey League or the USHL and won the Clark Cup with the Muskegon Lumberjacks. So not a bad move there for Muskegon to go get that guy. Great move there. Like I said, you look at Ekberg, had a pretty decent season overall with the 67s, did deal with a little bit of injury and kind of not getting utilized as much, but I think someone who played really well in their system, like I said, absolutely killed it at the World Juniors for the U18s, absolutely smoked that class. Like I said, goals and assists, most likely will probably go back to the O again next year as well, but not a bad pickup overall for a guy who can be shifty and someone who could definitely bring something for the Hurricanes. Like I said, if you look back at Norland as well, like he's going to the second tier of Swedish hockey, which isn't bad at all on a loan to another squad that's not where he was last year. But like I said, you got an American in Serrata going back to Penn State after being almost a Big Ten freshman of the year. Got some there's a Swedish guy, got a guy who, is from Sweden but played in the Ontario Hockey League last year. And you got some Russians who are going to play over in Russia once again. That's not Rybkin, but you're talking about some good developments over there. The MHL I think it's the VHL and the KHL. A lot of just something with an HL at the end of it, basically, for Russia. But a lot of good junior programs over there, too. So, yeah, not a bad draft overall for the Hurricanes for what they had to do to kind of trade back, trade up, for one particular player. But all in all, some tidy work from Eric Tulsky and those guys to get what they had to do.
Hopefully, depending, again, with the new age of college athletics, revenue sharing, you name it, a lot of guys are going to play NCAA hockey rather than one of these other leagues. Hopefully, Serrato's development does not get hindered as some of these top guys potentially go there if a Gavin McKenna ends up there. I am a little worried about that if some of that ice time does get taken from him, but hopefully that won't develop. Do you have any worries about that, or is that just a me thing when it comes to this new era of college hockey and college athletics?
You know what? I'm not really sure. I'm really curious to see how it works out. I mean, with college teams, I think they do a little bit more better in terms of giving ice time to their guys, because especially with the NCAA season. I know it's not quite as long as some of the CHL type of things, but I mean, it'll be interesting to see how it plays out, depending on where McKenna goes and all that. But I think in terms of Serrato, I think he'll be fine. And it's just, will he be a 2C rather than a 1C, or will he be down to a 3? All really depends. But I'm curious to see how it goes for him. Like I said, I'm not going to say there's nothing to worry about, but I wouldn't say it's something to be like overly concerned of. It's, like I said, sophomore years, we'll see how Penn State does. I mean, Penn State's on the rise. They're going to probably do something, different, or how they're going to make it work depending on how all that goes down. So I would definitely say, college hockey will be definitely interesting from now on, with a lot of these CHL guys, committing to, all of these colleges for sure.
Definitely. I am high on Frolov from the fact that a lot of scouts out there and people in the media had him as the first ranked international goalie, and depending on kind of where the Canes end up in that in the next couple of seasons, with Freddie only on a 1-year deal, with Piotr with only 2 years left on his contract, what does it look like? I think he might have another year. I'm not sure, but like, how soon would you have to potentially call him over? What does it look like? Who's going to be on the market in that? I think those are questions that Tulsky & Co. will answer over time. They don't have to worry about yet, but long term, it'll be interesting to see how soon he may have to get called up, maybe get that opportunity. But again, it also depends on how your other guys develop over time too. So it's not a bad thing to have the stockpile of goalies you have, because hopefully, one of them really develops well. But it's also what does it look like long term? And it's quite the question I think Caniacs will have as especially Piotr's career continues to develop.
Yeah, I know the guys from Canes Prospects really love Frolov. He really showed out at development camp. Unfortunately, when it comes to contracts and stuff like that, it's just whenever his contract ends over there in Russia, because you really can't do anything about that, with the agreement of you can't talk to him, you can't do nothing until his contract's up, or if it's it's terminated early. I'm not quite 100% on when his contract's currently up with his current team, so I don't even expect it to be within the next couple of years. I mean, this guy's I think he's 18 or 19 for Frolov, so I mean, he's still pretty young. I would probably give it at least 3, 4, maybe 5 at the most. It could be shorter. It all just depends on how all that situation works out, but I would not expect Frolov anywhere near this roster for at least 3 seasons. Could be shorter. It all just depends. But right now you got Freddie, you got Piotr. Like I said, you also just got Primo, Miftakov, Kaisev, the German Nikita Kwap. They're pretty good on goaltenders as of right now. I think right now they're currently running 6 deep in the organization. So 2 each at least going into that aspect. And of course, all the other guys, I mean, they think they still got Jacob Vondras playing at Sudbury as well in the OHL. So there are some other guys too, and they have a bunch of other dudes that they're currently over there in their other countries as of right now. So Frolov, from what I've heard, he's really good. Don't expect to be anytime soon.
Okay. There we have it. So overall, high hopes for this draft class, but like with any NHL draft class, we will see over time. And Zach, I know we love good information from Elliot Friedman. 32 thoughts coming out with their last episode of the 24-25 season. Some insider information on the Canes, their offseason, how that's all worked. What do you got from us? What are you hearing? Rumblings from Elliot Friedman on the Canes offseason.
Yeah, so apparently from what it sounded like, that the Hurricanes kind of forced the Edmonton Oilers' hand a little bit because, we all know the Oilers gave Bouchard that $10.5 million contract. Of course, it's I think it's like, what, 4 years on that AAV, I believe. A lot of projections are saying 9.5, and they gave him a 10.5 because they didn't want to get him to July 1st because apparently from what Freeman's saying, and of course we'll eventually know if it's true or not, that the Hurricanes were kind of threatening an offer sheet on Evan Bouchard, and it got to the point where the Hurricanes were even looking at Utah to see if they can get their third rounder back, because that's the third rounder they got Shane Gostisbehere for the first time they had him back in the 22-23 season. So yeah, that pick, it came back and it affected the Hurricanes a little bit when they got, Shane Gostisbehere that first time. So if that was the case, you're looking at a contract that was in between the 9 point something to 11.7, which would be 2 firsts, a second, and a third, which means that the fact that the Hurricanes had the Stars first, their second, and if they ever got their third back from Utah, they would have had enough for an offer sheet for Bouchard to where the Edmonton Oilers got him at 10.5. The Hurricanes could have pushed it to that 10.5 or somewhere in the $11 million range and got him. And I think it would have really put Edmonton in a tough spot. So it didn't really work out because they never got their third back from Utah, but of course it didn't matter because the Oilers gave him 10.5. And then the Hurricanes pivoted, and that turned into the Keandre Miller trade, which saw the conditional first, the second, that was probably going to go in the offer sheet, and Scott Morrow. So there's your pivot move from Bouchard to Miller. So yeah, Hurricanes making the Oilers a little bit nervous there on Evan Bouchard.
Which you knew the Canes were going to do something on that blue line. There was the rumblings that they were in on Ekblad as well. If he made it to the market, he did not do that. Congrats to Bill Zito, masterclass to keep them all, even though Brad Marchand skating at age 43 will be hilarious to watch. Overall, well done by Tulsky to be able to pivot. Okay, this guy comes off the market. Let me chase this guy. He's not available. Boom, make the Keandre Miller trade, make your team better. Very well done considering all the circumstances. I feel like a lot of Caniacs on June 30th, we're sitting there like, who is going to be available still? And for you to come away with what you did with the Stank extension, unbelievable value. Miller, eventually on Ehlers, well done to the Carolina Hurricanes front office.
Yeah, not a bad tidy first week if you're the Carolina Hurricanes, looking at that aspect where you go, like I said, you get the extension on Stankoven for an 8x6 that doesn't kick until next year. You got Ehlers at that 8.5, which is still not the highest AAV. That's still Sebastian Aho with his $9 million plus. And it's 6 years, so not bad at all. You could have given him the 7th, but I think, at some point maybe he was like, just give me the 6. I'll probably write it out. And there's the final contract. Makes it work. Now you got Keandre Miller for the next 8. He'll be 33 by the time that contract's over with the same year as Slavin's. So yeah, you got your at least the next 4 seasons, you're gonna have Miller, Slavin, and Sean Walker at least, and then you get a couple sprinklings of Ghost and Chetty for the next couple, and then Alexander Keeshan is in his last year of his ELC, but there's gonna be an extension at some point, so it's just gotta wait out and see. But yeah, defense looking pretty good there, and the forwards and all that stuff too. So I think as of right now, they still sit at $10.644 million. Even after the Ehlers signing, still north of 10.6. So, and apparently from Elliot Freeman saying 2C still might be one of the big needs for the Hurricanes, which Corey Levilet's talked about it. I even mentioned on one of my recent articles for the Hockey Writers too, that I don't know, possible winger going to be a center at some point, maybe. Who knows?
Make that happen, and then there's room on your wing for Bradley Nadeau to come up. Who knows? Possibilities are endless for the Carolina Hurricanes.
Well, I'll say this because I know Corey Laviolette mentioned Seth Jarvis possibly because he's a right-hand shot. He could do it. He's got a lot of more face-offs recently, especially over the last year. But I'll put this to you, Rich. Think about this as your possible top six. You're looking at probably Ehlers, Aho, Jarvis as your first line. Like, my absolute goodness, how can you not be excited for that? How about Taylor Hall with Logan Stankoven and Andrei Svechnikov as your second line because Svech can play on both wings? There's your top six. Yes, I know everyone's like, well, Stankoven's too short. Doesn't matter. He's had some high face, like Kat talked about earlier, over 50% on faceoffs. Yeah, you'll gladly have that. And if he's 46% for his career in the NHL, and that's not even getting to Rod Brindamore and Jordan Stahl and those guys, get him up to 49, even low 50% range. Still not bad at all. And you know what he can do? Then here's your third line of Martinook, Stahl with Jackson Blake. We all know that any young guy that gets put on that line with the Jordans, he gets a lot better. There's that net there because Jarvis did it. Stankoven's done it. Why not go to Jackson Blake? Just make that pipeline of your wingers getting better with those two. And then that opens up a Robinson, possibly KK or Jenks with Carrier as your right winger. And then it's whoever you want as your extra fifth center, and then Tyson Jost as your 14th forward. That could be possibly your forward core next year if you go Stankoven or Jarvis. But Stank is your 2C. Wouldn't be upset with that. I know a lot of other people, even DJ and Pete Blackburn from What Chaos even mentioned, Stankoven 2C, maybe. Who knows? Wouldn't be upset with that if he's your second line center. If you go internal with Hall and Svech on your wings, oof, sign me up for that. Especially if you get Ehlers, Jarvis, Aho.
And then carry that 10 mil over into next offseason, which that list
or
that's out
trade,
already.
Or trade deadline. Or the trade deadline, too. You
That
can still
too.
go get guys there, too, yeah.
Tulsky's not done making moves. I don't know what that move will be, but considering the cap space, prospects available, because only giving up Scott Morrow and a first for Keandre Miller, you have the potential to wheel and deal other available assets. But we'll wait and see. We might get off this call and Tulsky does something crazy. It might be right at whenever the trade deadline is, a minute right before the deadline, the deal goes through. Or again, who knows whether it's go all in for 26 free agent or you offer sheet a 26 RFA. A couple really good dudes available there as well. Between this year and this time next year, this is a insanely good roster now. It's going to be even better by the time we're having this episode again next year.
Yep. No, 100%. It's going to be interesting with how, with trade deadline coming up this year, there could be some teams that might be offloading a second line center. Maybe you didn't get this offseason, but maybe you get them by the deadline. There might be some teams desperate enough to trade one of those guys off, and you go from there. And, next offseason, I know we've talked about a lot. There's a lot of dudes that are going to be available for trade or signings or RFA status. There's going to be some nice work done here by Tulsky in the front office over the next couple off seasons for sure. But yeah, 10.6, I don't think they're done. It's just what team is willingly going to give up a second line center? That's the question.
We'll find out over time. We'll keep an eye out for all of the moves, keep you updated on all the socials that we got below at the SurgeCast, TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, you name it. We have got you covered here on the SurgeCast. Done here. Episode 1 of season 5. We will be coming to you guys again sometime soon. But for now, enjoy your July. Coming back sometime soon. Thank you for listening to the SurgeCast.